Hello, hello. Good day. Welcome to the TLC Group and Abacus's community live stream. What's privacy got to do with it? Today, December 1st, we're kicking it off with our final live stream for 2022, which is the gift that keeps on giving. My name is Taheera Lovell. I'm the CEO of TLC Group, and my co-host is Lennox Cumberbatch, Director of Accounting Services for Abacus Ltd. All right, so today we're going to take you through just a look back at some of the previous live streams that we've had to hopefully be able to share with you some useful advice. And then we will jump straight into those 25 tips. All right, so Lennox, how has 2022 been for you this year?
Good afternoon, everyone. First thing, and 2022 has been, I would say, a good year compared to the prior 2 years. 2020 and 2021 were pretty challenging years with COVID and all of the disruptions because of that. So 2022 so far has been a great year, both on a professional and a personal level. Many things have been happening in both cases. Some of you might know, but I'm really looking forward to awesome 2023 as things again begin to return to what we know as normal.
Great, awesome. Okay, and then before we go into the presentation, the training today, just wanted to tell everyone, feel free to drop your comments. Hi to Billy, I think he's already dropped a comment in there. And we'll be sure to pick up any questions or comments towards the end. All right, so our first live stream we did together, Alex, you remember that was about starting a data diet. And maybe talking about a diet this close to or shortly after Thanksgiving and this close to Christmas may not be ideal, but again, when we talk about data protection, less is more. So you really want to try and ensure that the amount of data your organization processes, that you can minimize it as much as possible. So when you're thinking about your personal fitness and physical diets in the new year, perhaps having scheduling a data diet for your organization is equally as important.
Yes, getting rid of all that additional information is not necessarily needed. Just find a way to drop it rather is storing it in a secure place or shredding it if it's not needed.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good tips there, Lennox. And then we did a summer presentation, which is the sizzling summer for data privacy, which, I love this image. 'Cause I think it sort of characterizes what some of us do, It's, the fire's burning all around us, but, we're just saying, this is fine, we'll cope. We're still hearing so many breaches. There was a big leak of some WhatsApp data in the last couple of weeks. So there was a lot of issues around these platforms that are gathering a lot of our information. So from an individual level, it's really important as much as possible when we talk about data diets for a personal, for corporations, it's equally as important for personal individuals as well. I just see someone's saying they can't hear. Just a note, I believe if you can hear us, if you could just drop it in the comments just to double check. But I think we've had some people say it's no problem hearing. But if you are having an issue, maybe try signing out and then coming back in on LinkedIn. All right. Okay, and then thanks, Alicia. Yes, Alicia just said she can't hear us, so appreciate that. Again, if you are having trouble, please just sign out and maybe sign back in. And then we did Knowledge is Power, which we did. I believe that was in September, right, Lennox? Was that presentation?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So when we talk about data protection, data privacy, cybersecurity, it's all about the amount of knowledge you can gather. These topics, they change so rapidly. There's new things coming every day. So you really want to ensure that you are keeping up to date. So you're, of course, joining our live stream today, but there's a lot of information. YouTube can be your greatest friend. There are a lot of YouTube videos around data privacy protection. And there are a number of courses that you can do, such as the TLC Group's courses, or other courses that will give you some more of that information.
Yeah. And I think it's very critical that you do get this information and knowledge, because with the onset of PIPA or PIPA, as some people call it, this information is going to be absolutely necessary to implement the relevant controls and procedures to ensure you're in adherence to the regulations that are coming.
Indeed. Okay, so just a note here as we dive into our first chat. When you're using personal devices, so you may have a camera or a cell phone, a smartphone, where you are using it to take photographs or video, but you're using it for work purposes. You want to ensure that you're also, when you maybe download it onto the work drive, that you're deleting those videos or photos from your backups. Quite often, when you've got those sort of devices, they automatically back up, if you've got it set up that way, the videos or the images to a cloud system. So you want to ensure that if you are deleting them off of your device, that you also go in and make sure that they're deleted off of those cloud systems as well. This is also important when you have your own personal images. You may think, okay, well, I've deleted them from my device. If it isn't set to auto delete or sync with the cloud service, they may still be up there. So there may be files and things like that that you don't even realize are still available online on a cloud system.
Yeah, and some of you might be wondering, what can a photograph of me be used for? But just look at it this way: some person can take a headshot of you and use that to create a ID card, to steal your ID. So these things they might seem like basic things. You take a photograph and put it out there on Instagram or WhatsApp statuses or something like that. But these things can definitely be used to cause harm to you or your family members as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. The next tip we have here is around emails. So a lot of times you get an email and you may only see sort of the top level. And you may not realize sometimes it may like three little dots or might be see more, read more at the bottom. And you actually have to go down and actually see the rest of the information. Before you just forward on emails or you CC somebody into an email, just double check to see if there is extra information, because again, you don't want to share people's private conversations, personal information, just because you didn't realize that there was these additional email chats or these email chains. And it is really so easy, especially if you're on your phone. I know all the time I read the message, I read the first couple of lines, and I'm like, okay, that's what it is, and I'll just forward it, if it's to one of the consultants or to an assistant. And sometimes, again, you just have to double check. I always just say, let me just double check. Is this a chain? Is there additional information? And I've received, I don't know if you have, Lennox, I've sometimes received emails and then I go down and I read it. I'm like, oh dear, I don't think I was supposed to see some of this conversation. So yeah, be very careful before you forward emails on to check if there's other information below.
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely occurred with me as well, where I've gotten emails and recognized that maybe the first set of communication that occurred, I shouldn't have been privy to. And it's easy when, you can always, if you need to forward a portion of the email, you can always delete the information
Yeah.
that you don't need to forward. So it's pretty easy to clean emails, even if you need to forward some of the information that is in the chain of emails that occur.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Notifications. So disabling notifications from showing on your lock screen. Some phones, depending on the type of phone you have or the system, it may just show like the icon, just something that lets you know there's something waiting for you. Because of course, sometimes you may be, your phone may just be on a desk or someone may be using your phone or something like that. And if those notifications come up, if it shows all of the content, there could be some personal information. So sometimes you may actually be able to read part of the message. Or if someone sent you an image, it may show up. So going in and making sure that you're disabling notifications from showing on your lock screen is one of the easiest settings you can do, really. Um, Depending on your OS, normally you'll just go in, go to settings. You should see display or notifications, and there should be an option there to either hide content or disable them, or even just I think it's called brief on Android devices. It'll just show you a small snippet of what the actual message was about. The next tip we have here is around geolocation. Most times when you download apps and install them, you will get some little prompts that say, do you want to allow them to access your location? Or you may just use it for Google Maps or something like that when you're, navigating using GPS on your phone. However, you want to make sure that this isn't always enabled. Go in and have it so that it's manually. So you may have an option. I think on iPhones it may say, "Do not allow," allow only while using this device, or not at all. Geolocation, it can really be used to build and track what you're doing. And there are there's malware, there's privacy risks around people knowing, or different applications knowing where you're going, what your interests are, how long you're staying in particular places. So again, not leaving this as an automatic a feature, manually selecting it for when you need it, and then disabling it after is a better posture when it comes to data privacy. Many of us are working from home, either for work, or just we just want to use our Wi-Fi at home, because who wants to be tethered by an Ethernet cable to a router, right? You want to have that flexibility to walk around or be in your bed using your laptop or devices. So a lot of home wireless networks, you can actually have a function which lets you see or share files, send things to print on other devices that are on your network. However, you want to disable file and media sharing if you do not actually have a need for that. So some routers, they may have that enabled by default. Others, you may have to actually go in and disable it. So you want to ensure that you disable that if you do not need it. Just because if people are able to connect to your network, then they can then possibly get access to your files, or they can put the viruses and things like that. And I just know that from personal experience, you'd be surprised how many people or how many devices are trying to connect to your network. I use an app, I think it's called Wireless Network Watcher. And basically, it pings me every time a device or one of the unrecognized devices are trying to connect. And I'll never forget, I was watching TV one day, and all of a sudden, we had all these people trying to connect. And it was because it was a bunch of teenagers walking by. And they were, I guess, looking for free Wi Fi, or their phones were just automatically picking it up. So, again, these little features, we use technology every day, but it's little settings that you can make which just help to improve the security and privacy, not just for your devices, but also for your home environment. Because, of course, who doesn't, no one wants to feel that people spying on them in their own home, right? So, again, this disabling file and media sharing is an easy way to go ahead and protect your privacy while at home. WhatsApp. So when you have WhatsApp groups, I don't know how many of you been invited to Lennox. Seems like at least once
Many.
a week I get invited to a new WhatsApp group, which is great. It's a way that you can easily share information with a group of people or get access to it all at once. However, you can see, even if they're not your contacts, you can still see phone numbers, and you can sort of try to, you can normally figure out who's who. A better way to invite people to groups versus adding them, may say like add as a participant for WhatsApp, is to invite using a link. That way, the person actually has the choice. I got added to a group. Somebody just added me, but most of the numbers were from Nigeria. And I may know some people in Nigeria, but most of those people in the group, I had no clue who they were. And I really didn't want them to have my phone number. So again, when you are thinking about privacy, don't just think about it from your perspective, but also think about it, of being polite, and using good internet etiquette when it comes to inviting people to other WhatsApp groups who may not want their information to be shared with others.
Yeah. And Chair, this might be one of those items that a lot of people are not aware of, that you can actually share a link.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's always Google that you can Google to see how to do it. But do you know exactly how you would do that on a Android?
Sure. So, well, with the WhatsApp app itself, when you go into group info, I believe it is, if you're the admin or you've been added as an admin, then there you will have the option to invite using a link. So you can either add the participant where you'll be clicking like their name or their contact, or you can invite using the link. So best practice is to actually just use the link, because then that individual has the choice whether they want to be added. Because there's nothing like you get added to the group and then you see everybody get added and then everybody leaves. You see all these people exited the group, right? Because they didn't want to be in there in the first place. So again, it says, you're inviting people into a space. You want to make it as safe as possible if you're the group admin. So it should be, again, group info, where you go to add a participant, there's an option to say invite using link.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next one is our SIM cards. Even though there are eSIM cards coming out, there are many devices. People still use a regular old SIM card. One thing about the SIM cards, or there's two particular risks when it comes to SIM cards. If your phone was stolen or if it was lost, is one, if your contacts are all on that SIM card, and someone has access to it, now they can either contact your people, impersonate you, as well as for authentication. So many of us may be now familiar with getting little codes, multi-factor authentication when we're signing up or logging into systems. You may put in your username and password, but then it'll send you a text or something like that. Remember that SIM card is your network provider's identifier of who you are. So if your phone was stolen or lost, someone now can sign in if they had access to your username and password to impersonate you. They can then get that second level of authentication, and they can actually get that text and possibly gain access. There have been some high profile thefts thefts from high profile individuals of their cell phones, particularly for this circumstance. So again, be really careful and mindful when it comes to your SIM card. You can lock it or encrypt it. There is some software that lets it encrypt to make sure that if even if it was stolen or lost, that no one would be able to access that.
Correct.
And I think also this would be applied for if you're selling on devices or giving a device as well, right, Lennox?
Yes, it definitely applies to that, and and think the next slide speaks a little bit about that as well. But I've had a personal experience where I've handed on my cell phone to my son, my old cell phone, and for a period of time he was getting messages that were meant for me. I mean, in that case, it was my son, but imagine if I had sold that cell phone to a stranger, and that person was actually getting messages that were meant to me. I mean, all of my emails and all that were on
Mhm.
your phone. So possibly that person could have been getting access to information that was not meant for them, or that they can use um, for fraud or something like that. So just ensure when you're handing over devices that you find out how you can wipe it clean in many cases, and not just delete stuff
Yeah.
as Sarah said. Ensure that you can actually go beyond that just first level of deletion, because many times that is only pushing the information into a particular part of the phone, the trash bin, but it's still accessible. Ensure that you can delete that information completely from the device that you're handed over.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, again, we're not just talking about mobile devices a lot of times, the cell phones and things like that. It's also, printers, photocopiers. A lot of times they will have an ability to store information. So for some larger printers you may see in an office, they actually have a physical hard drive. Sort of smaller models, personal printers we may have at home. There may be a smaller, like a memory cache, which stores, a limited amount of information. Either way, whether you're buying it or you're leasing it, or especially, sorry, I should say, when you're leasing those types of devices, you want to be sure when you're either disposing of it or you're having to return it, that you are getting rid of that information. Because for in the case of workplace printers or workplace size printers and photocopiers, every time someone has sent something to that device, it has stored a copy. So some of the manufacturers, they actually have security features built in. So you can go into the menu and you can see where you can overwrite. Depending how sophisticated the printer or photocopier is, there may be an option to actually set it to delete every day or delete once a month or once a week, whatever that may be, regardless if you are disposing of it or returning it back to the leasing company. Make sure that you are removing that information or overwriting the data that is on the hard drive.
Yeah, and I think Tiara, just there's a critical point for the current environment we're in because when the pandemic hit, I think a lot of people went out, they bought printers and other devices to use at home, and now that we're returning to the office in some cases, people are getting rid of those printers or getting rid of those other devices that we're using at home. And many times you just go on Facebook Marketplace and you just see people selling these items, and anyone can buy these items.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people don't actually wipe these items or are not aware that these items actually have been storing the information that have
Mm-hmm.
come into and been fed into these items over the last year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So I think this is a pretty excellent point to drive home.
Yeah. And also, when it comes to when some companies do e-cycling, so some organizations they may every year or every couple of years they refresh all of their electronic devices, and they may sell it or give it to charity, to an e-cycling company that's supposed to, recycle it and get rid of it, or give it to another helping organization. But there have been very notable cases where, whether it's government, schools, medical companies, hospitals have gotten rid of this information. I'm sorry, these devices. And then subsequently, someone was able to retrieve the information. So, again, making sure that you're using a credible third party provider or that you have an IT team or expertise in house to ensure that that information is being deleted. Recordings. So all very familiar with this sort of virtual way of working and virtual meetings. And some of them do allow you to record. Don't forget to make sure that you delete them. I've seen meetings where people have kept them for weeks and months, and there was no real need because in real life, we won't necessarily record a meeting if we were all together. So make sure that you are, if you are recording, that as soon as possible, you're taking the information that's needed and then you're deleting those recordings afterwards. Especially if sometimes you move from platform to platform. So you may have started with Zoom and now you've gone to Teams or you've gone to GoToMeeting or some other platform. Those recordings, if they're still stored on that original website and you haven't deleted them, then of course that could pose a potential privacy risk, especially if you're recording really sensitive meetings like board meetings, or if you're in the health and social care type of organizations and you're recording client visits and things like that. So again, it's really important to make sure where you do not need, remember data minimization, where you do not need this personal information any longer, that you are getting rid of it. I talked earlier about deleting the, for work purposes, if you are going in and taking pictures and things like that, deleting it from your cloud. But also just remember, general, you may have your OneDrive connected to your desktop. So every time you create a Word doc, a PowerPoint, things like that, it may be syncing up to that cloud. Again, if you haven't um, uh, got it set up so that it auto syncs both ways, you may find that you've deleted a file from your device or your computer, but it's still on your cloud account. This is actually very important for when you work in an organization and there is an access request, or there's a request for rectification or deletion. If files are sitting in cloud, and this again, a lot of companies use cloud systems these days. if you're using multiple platforms to store information, you want to ensure that wherever a deletion or rectification request is put in, that you're deleting it from all of those systems and not thinking, okay, well, I pressed delete on my computer, so that's it. You want to, again, ensure that through all of the platforms, that information is removed. The next one here is your apps. A lot of us, I don't know how many apps do you, would you say you have, Lennox, on your phone?
A lot, because I
A
have
lot.
to swipe at least 3 times to get to my apps, the most recent apps. So there are many apps on my phone.
Yes, and they're great. A lot of them are quite handy. Some of them may have downloaded, ages ago and don't even use, right? Again, some devices, they now are starting to get obviously more smart. They may say, okay, this app hasn't been used for so long, and it prompts you to say, do you still want to use it or keep it? However, a lot of those apps, you will see that when you install it and you start to go through it, they are collecting a lot of information. So, why does a particular app need to know my location, my calendar, access to my phone, access to my mic? You know, a- there's a reason, because the software in the app is actually collecting that information. So, where possible, you can go into your settings and go in and actually manually update that so that you can restrict as much as possible. Obviously, without breaking the app, you still want to be able to use it. But where you can, go in and restrict it. And this is actually really important, or very topical this time of the year, because many of us will probably be getting new devices for Christmas, for the holidays, or you may be upgrading. Excuse me. So really make sure when you're doing new app installs or you're transferring data over to a new device, that you are taking, a few minutes just to go in and check those settings.
Yeah, and as Sierra said, going back again to the data diet, if you're not using something or you don't have any use for it, uninstall it, remove it from your phone. It not just for security purposes, but it creates space that you might need for the device to perform better.
Mhm. So our next tip is a physical security risk, especially again this time of year. Many of us may be traveling home to visit family, or just getting a nice holiday abroad, and you'll likely be going through airport security, which it means you've got to go through the security checks and the scanners. Put your laptop, your phone, valuables on this belt, and trust it. When you get to the other side, it's still there, right? This tip is especially important if you are taking your work device away with you, to keep an eye on that laptop as it goes on the belt. There are some ways that you can sort of reduce your risk about this, because of course you could get pulled over. TSA may say, well, we want to check this or something like that. And you may be pulled aside, and your laptop or your valuables are still sitting in a tray. There's a couple of things you can do. There are sort of remote devices which you can install on on your software. Sorry, there are software that you can install on your device, which can let you know if it's more than, say, 10 feet away from you. It'll give off an audible alert or a ping or something like that. You can also use something low tech, right? We don't always have to go high tech. You can just put bright stickers, just temporarily, before you put it through, or while you're in the airport. Again, to make it very noticeable, because at the end of the day, those laptops look the same, silver or black, right? So if you've got a bright sticker, either with your name or some sort of image that is easily recognizable and identifiable, then again, that would help limit either someone picking it up by mistake, which can happen, or someone actually running off and stealing it. Having that sort of unique identifier is a great way. What I do have stickers that I use sometimes. But what I also do is I just make sure, because normally have at least two or three bins. You got a bin for your coat, you got a bin for your carry-on, and then you've got your valuables and your shoes. I generally put my laptop, phone in that tray or on the belt last, and I actually wait for the person in front of me to go through before I actually let it go. And some people get a little attitude behind me because I'm holding it up. But I just say, or I'll tell the TSA person, this is my laptop. I just want to make sure that, I can get it on the other side. And then when I go through, by that time, because it was the last item, it will be coming out just as I'm passing through the scanner. So again, when we talk about data protection, it's not just about paper and things like that. It's really about our physical data protection methods as well.
Yep, I think that's an excellent tip, Tiara. I'll practice that next time I travel.
Yes. When it comes to our personal accounts, I know it's really easy to use our usernames, right? I mean, our personal names. So, to have Taheera Lovell at such and such, or, for your online banking or different online accounts that you use. It's really easy to remember your name. However, you don't want to make it easy for, criminals or people with bad intentions. You may have an ex who has something to grind. Don't make it so easy that they can easily get your username, because then all they need is your password, which with the way password crackers and, a lot of people's passwords aren't strong enough, it can easily, someone can get access to your information. So again, using a username that may be personal to you, like maybe your dog's name or something, a pet's name or your favorite fruit, as being your username, is a better method than using your first and last name.
Yep, and one thing with if you think that using multiple usernames or usernames are not easy to remember, there are tools that can help you with that. Password managers that you
Mhm.
can use to store all the usernames that you don't have to remember every single one. You just need to remember that one to get into the password manager. So there are a number of ways that you can really make it a little easier on yourself in terms of using strong usernames and
Mhm.
the ability to remember those usernames as well.
Yeah. Everywhere we go online, we leave what's called a digital footprint. Some people call them little breadcrumbs, right? If you remember the whole story of Hansel and Gretel, there's little things that over time you're leaving a trail online of who you are, what you do, what you like, who your friends and family are. It's really useful from time to time. I do it at least once a year. I just Google myself. And when I say Google, obviously that becomes the terminology for doing a web search, right? There are other browsers, so you can go and Google Microsoft Edge, you can use Firefox, Mozilla. It's really good to actually use multiple browsers, and go on and just put your name in or different ways, maybe Taheera Lovell and, where I'm from or something like that, to go in and see what comes up. You might actually be surprised, because remember, it's not necessarily things that we post about ourselves that get online. It could be our friends and family, or you may have been part of an award ceremony or something, or appeared in the local news. Again, all of these little breadcrumbs can be a great way for someone to commit fraud or identity theft, or be able to use social engineering to get information about you, from others, or even to impersonate maybe a vendor like your bank or something that they know you use. So again, regularly just checking what information is about you, that resides online, and most browsers will give you the option to request removal. So you might find it like at the bottom or next to the actual link. You may have an option to say, I'd like to request removal. And then you obviously have to verify with the browser who you are and why you want it to be removed. Because, of course, it won't remove it, it won't delete it, right? So once things are online, guys, it is there forever. However, what the browsers will do is, if they do honor your request, they'll hide it so that if someone else puts in a search, or they're doing a little investigation, it won't actually pop up. And you may have seen it. Google has it. Some items have been removed and things like that. So again, if you've got, you may have had a different life, many years ago, and that image of yourself you may not want to see online. So you can make those requests where possible.
Yeah.
And it's actually really important too. I'm just sorry, Lennox. As we're going into the new year, if you're looking for a new job and things like that, you may, a lot of employers use Google as their first go-to, right? Once they get your CV, oh, let me just see who this person is and what they do. And if these unfortunate pictures pop up, or where you've made comments, even in forums and things like that, if they aren't putting you in the best possible light, you may want to go in and do some of that removal work before you look for a new job.
Yep, that's critical. So based on what Taheera just said, how many of you are happy that this whole social media and stuff wasn't around when you were at university? I know I am.
I am right there with you, Lennox. All right. The next one is around. I talked about social engineering, and one type of social engineering is phishing scams, and that could be or vishing, which is someone calling, or smishing, which is using an SMS, a text message, whatever it may be. It's basically they're trying to either get personal information, either about you or your accounts and things like that, your credentials. It's always, always, always good to go and verify. So to all of my friends and family, I'm not planning on traveling anywhere this holiday season. So if you get an email that I'm in, Dubai and I've lost my passport, it's not me. You can always verify. So if you get a call or an email asking for help or something like that, just check with another person. Or if you get it from an organization, say your bank or your insurance company, saying they need you to verify these details. Always go to the sort of that a single source of information, the previously held number that you may know or their website, and then verify before actually giving that information over, because most of those types of companies will not solicit that information in an email or over the phone. And I actually have a personal. It turned out to the best for me, but what happened was I have a personal experience with this. I got a call out of the blue saying, "Oh, congratulations, you've won a trip to the what was it, the UEFA finals or something like that in Madrid." And I was like, "Okay." And then they were like, "Oh, yes, it's your bank because you use Mastercard, blah blah. You were entered into a draw and you won." And they wanted me to like verify sending over my passport because they needed to book the tickets, and I was just very skeptical as you can imagine. So I said, okay, well, listen, what's your name? What department do you work in? And then I said, okay, I'll call you back. I hung up. I called the number that I knew to be the bank's number. I asked, is there a department such and such, and does this individual work there? And on the front, the operator said yes. So they put me through, and yeah, I had indeed won this free trip. However, if I hadn't, and I just given this person my passport number and information and all this stuff over the phone, I could have, been the victim of identity theft or fraud. So again, just taking that extra step to, don't use the number they give you. Again, using well-known contact details is the best way to sort of help prevent falling victim to a scam like that.
Yep. And there's one I think that most of us probably would have experienced before as well, is you usually get an email saying that your Yahoo account has been terminated or
Mm.
email account has been terminated, and you need to click this link in order to reactivate it. And usually, those are phishing scams, because at the end of the day, you still have access to your Yahoo account.
Mhm.
So just keep an eye out for those. And they usually, on this time of year, there's an increase in traffic of phishing scams,
Mhm.
obviously, because people let the guard down a little bit around this time of year.
Yeah. When it comes to taking, so if you're, in a sort of front desk role, or, even you get a call, on a home line, and someone is asking to speak to someone, that person isn't available. Don't overshare. Don't pass on information that they really shouldn't know. I can't tell you the number of times I've called and asked to speak to somebody. Oh no, she's on holiday. She's not back, or she's gone to take her daughter to the doctors. I don't need to know that. The person isn't available. Or they may say, oh, well, she's not in the office right now. Do you want her mobile number? Again, unless there is a real critical need for that, or that individual has given you their consent, try not to provide additional information. So for organizations that have like customer service teams and things like that, that's again a really important point, or receptionists, executive assistants, making sure they understand if someone calls in, don't give extra information. I don't need to know that, Sheila's on maternity leave and, we don't have anybody taking her place. So you have to wait till she comes back in May, right? Again, being very aware, not just of our personal information privacy, but the privacy of others as well. Some of these tips may be familiar to you. This one, I'm sure everybody knows. It's an oldie but a goodie. But many of us still just need to make sure we're doing it on a regular basis. And I always say towards the end of the year is a good time to always go in, check your privacy settings, your security settings, make sure that your cookies and your web searches are being deleted on a regular basis. One, it can make your device faster because all of those cookies and save files and everything can add up and make, going on the internet and using different applications slower. But also from a privacy perspective, and I talked a bit earlier about, how these apps and these software use things on your device to track you or see what you're doing. They build up a profile. So every website you visit, every link you click, things that you're downloading, if that's all stored in like your web browser or on your computer, then these are things that other software or other websites can potentially pick up. So just going in on a regular basis, and that's across all your devices, your cell phones, your smartphones, laptops, tablets, desktop computers, all of your browsers, making sure that that is on a regular basis being cleaned out. Again, we're back here to a physical security tip. Um, we have locked drawers, which are great, locked cabinets, things like that. But also making sure that you are keeping those keys safe. So sometimes when we've done TLC Group and we've done physical audit reviews, we've gone into the office and yeah, sure, they have lockable cabinets, but all the cabinets have the keys in them. Or there are locked file drawers. And there is a key box that's sitting, is quite noticeable on a wall. And then, the keys will even have tags to tell you which cabinet it belongs to. Again, looking at the risks for that information, the risks in your environment, you may want to consider actually assigning key holding responsibilities to some trustworthy, responsible individuals, rather than, again, just leaving it as whoever's using the cupboard has responsibility for the key. That way, you have a log, you can track who's coming and getting access to those cabinets. Because if you're you're accessing a cabinet where you don't need access to that information, then that person can say, well, no, stop, sorry. Why are you wanting to get access to the HR folders or something like that, for instance? So again, just thinking about those physical security risks and obviously thinking about your environment. So make it proportional, right? So if you work in a high risk environment, like a medical office, a financial services company, something like that, you may want to have multiple layers of physical security. Whereas if you're, you may just be, you may be making cookies or something like that. And you only have like a newsletter and things like that you're collecting that are people's personal information. Then your risk may be considerably lower.
Yeah, and an example of a multiple layer of physical security could be simply having more than one person with keys that both are needed to access a physical space.
Mhm.
Something as simple as that, which means that whenever you need to get this information, there's another person that need to really validate the reason you're getting this information.
Yeah, great. This one here, Lennox, do you want to talk to this one? Because I know everyone is familiar with autofill. Do you want to talk to some of the risks with
Yeah,
sending, with using autofill?
yep, and just like we spoke about emails, sending out email chains earlier, there's a huge risk in, especially when you deal with people who have common names. I don't want to say any because I don't want anybody say I call their name a common name. There are some names that are very popular, and sometimes we type in the first letter and the first one that pops up you're writing the email, but you're putting in the address as well. You just choose that one, and it is not the Ryan or the Sean that you really want it to go to. So I think it's pretty critical to implement this level of security, removing that autofill tool, which forces you to actually write in the correct email address rather than select it from a pop-up that's coming up. I think most of us have experienced this before, where we've actually sent an email to a person with a similar name and tried to recall it. But sometimes people open emails immediately, so it's too late to recall an email. So I think this is a very excellent tip in terms of turning off that autofill tool.
Yeah. And if you're using Outlook, Gmail, you'll normally find it sort of in the options setting. And if you go to like mail, and then there'll be an option where it'll actually say disable autofill. You can also empty or delete your auto complete entries. So, if you know that you may have put someone's name in incorrectly, right? And I will hold my hand up. I've done this. I've typed somebody's name in. It's now in my autocomplete, and then I've sent it again, and I've sent it to the wrong email because it picked up that first one that was the email address may have been spelled incorrectly. So I get a failure, a delivery failure. I'm like, oh, why didn't it go through? And then I look, I'm like, oh, it auto completed using the other one. So then I have to remember to go in and empty my autocomplete so that I can then make sure that the recipient gets the message. Because you don't want to send the message and then be like, one person hasn't responded to me. And then you realize it's because the email didn't actually go through. Um, I talked about locking cabinets and access. Also, rooms, containing confidential information but not in use. And this is also important when you have people that are working in a hybrid sort of mode. So you may only have a limited number of people in the office at any one time. You don't want people to, sometimes people are nosy. Like, oh, well, no one's in the office with me. Let me just go have a peek and see what so and so has in their office. Again, making sure that you're locking your offices, your individual rooms, and things like that when they're not in use. And that could be something just slipping to, you're going to lunch. You may end up having a very long lunch, and your office is left unlocked. So if people do not need to have access to your room, or your room contains really confidential, sensitive information, best practice is always, as soon as you walk out, make sure that it's locked. When it comes to public settings and physical security, when you are working, if you're in a little cafe, a coffee shop, or you're working on a train or a bus or something like that, you want to again make sure that people aren't able to just look over your shoulder, and see. This is even for personal. I've sometimes been on public transport, and I've been able to have a good little look at someone's photos and things like that, or videos that they're watching. Of course, some of that information could be quite sensitive. So you want to ensure that you are positioning yourself as best as you can to make sure that people cannot just shoulder surf and see your information.
Yep. And privacy screens work
Mhm.
well for this reason as well.
Yeah, so you can get those little privacy screens which go over so that even if someone is right behind you or just over your shoulder, depending on the angle, they will not be able to actually make out what is on your screen. Uh, we're on emails again, and that's just because this is the main mode for most people of communications, and for transmission of personal information. When it comes to sending, an email or message to multiple people at the same time, even if the people know the other individuals, it's always just best to use blind carbon copy, BCC, not the CC option, unless you obviously want people to know who got it. But otherwise, always use BCC by default, because sometimes someone may reply to your message, not even realize everyone was on it, or reply all, and they've now shared information with everyone, and they didn't even want to get it, or to share that information with them. So again, trying to use BCC as much as possible versus the CC option when sending to a group is best practice. A tip here, it's MFA. And for those of you who are in the good seats, MFA is multi-factor authentication or dual factor authentication. Basically, if you have a prompt, if your email system, if your bank, if your email provider says you now can use MFA, do enable that. Because again, these additional layers, you again don't want to make it easy for someone to compromise your systems or get access to your data. So using multi-factor authentication wherever possible is best practice.
Yep. I know sometimes that might be inconvenience in terms of accessing a database or accessing a system. But I think that the security around using that is much more variable than the
Mhm.
inconvenience to get around having to click on approve on a phone or on some other form of um, authentication.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Similar to the autofill, we also have the option of disabling the autofill. You also in Outlook, Gmail, a lot of email providers now give you the option to delay sending. You can do this as a rule. So you can set up a rule that says delay sending all my messages 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever that may be. Most of them won't let you, I don't think, delay more than 2 hours. But you can set up this delay so that even if you send it, if you realize it went to the wrong individual or that it was drafted incorrectly, you can still go back in and modify or delete it. So again, if your email provider has that option, you may be able to do it as a rule for all of your messages. Or if you have a particularly sensitive message and you're working on it, you may want to set up that on that message in particular. Because I know sometimes I've been working on the email, I've had it sitting in my draft, then I went back to it, then I pressed send by mistake. I didn't even want it, but because I have the delay send, I can just go back, boom, 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 stop it from going and actually finish the message, right? So again, technology, a lot of email platforms, a lot of technology, social media platforms are giving us these tools because they recognize privacy and security should be easy. It should be seamless. It shouldn't be burdensome. So there are these little settings that you can do to help make your engagement with technology a little bit more seamless. And then our final tip for today is getting familiar with your personal data privacy rights. Regardless which jurisdiction or where you live, most countries now will have some form of a personal data protection legislation. Bermuda has the PIPE or PIPA, which is partly enacted, but is likely to be fully enacted this year. Bermuda is the host of the Global Privacy Assembly this year, which means that hundreds of data privacy, data protection, and security experts, including lawyers, technology, IT people, and their families, will be on our island. Bermuda will be showcased. So it's really important that organizations get prepared and that individuals understand what is their role when it comes to personal data privacy.
Yep. And when it comes to that, you also, as organizations, you want to avoid any consequences of a breach or your company being responsible for a breach in privacy, because there are some huge financial consequences that can
Mhm.
bankrupt some companies. Small companies cannot afford to pay some of the fines that are coming with the paper laws.
Yeah, exactly. Better to be prepared. I always say have an offensive mind versus a defensive. You want to try and prepare as much as possible, for any sort of breach or incident. Ensure that your staff and all individuals who are using personal information in your organization are aware as well. All right. Well, we've come to the end of our presentation for today. It's been a pleasure. Really engaging with you all. We've had some good feedback and comments. You should see in the comments a link if you want to join our mailing list. We will be sharing this presentation with anyone who does sign up to that mailing list. So again, it's a link in there, a MailChimp link where you just put in your name and email, and you can get a copy of this presentation. We do want to wish everyone a happy holiday. Lennox, do you want to just share maybe if people are looking for services in the new year, how Abacus can support them?
First of all, yes, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday. And in 2023, we are really looking to move into a lot of different areas here at Abacus. As you know, we offer accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services. We also offer training, which we'll be doing a lot of in 2023, specifically training on the QuickBooks database systems. And we'll also be doing advisory. We are moving out to just the accounting, financial silo, and we are going into operational advisory. So feel free to reach out to us, www.abacus.bm, or our email is info@abacus.bm, and inquire about the many things that we're doing to help our customers, our clients.
Sounds awesome. And I think I saw a little comment about a certificate of attendance. No, we don't issue certificates of attendance for these webinars. However, if you are looking for some certification courses, the TLC Group does offer a number of data protection trainings. So if you want to be a certified data privacy champion or cybersecurity champion, we have the data privacy lead and the data protection officer courses, which are certified. They do have professional development CPD hours attached to them. So feel free to visit our website, the tlcgroup.pro, to find out about those courses. For 2023, of course, there'll be a lot of engagement with clients on Island with regards to getting prepared for Piper. So we have our signature program called the Journey to Compliance, where we help organizations step by step. We make it easy. We hope we make it fun to be able to get prepared for Piper, the full enactment, as well as holistic data protection. So if you don't have any further questions, we wish you all the best for the remainder of the year. And we hope to be able to, that you'll be able to join us again in 2023. Take care from the TLC Group and Abacus.
Thank you. Happy holidays.